First guest right here. I'll race you. You got one. You get this one. Thank you very much. I'm not going to tell you who I am. First, what I'd like to do, I'll tell you in a minute, is hear everybody do Transformers, or rather Autobots transform and roll out. 1, 2, 3.
Autobots transform and roll out!
Roll out!
Okay, now here's one for you. Oh, shit.
Oh, shit!
Hey! That's the biggest oh shit I think they've ever heard in Los Angeles. Okay, I got a couple of notes, and then I'll get my ass in the chair here. That was fun. And the picture was fun. Will you hand me that? Thank you. Your prints are all over. First, a question or two. How many professional actors are in the audience? Okay, all right. More voice actors? Actors? Back there. They'll come out in a minute.
Amateur voice actor.
How many of you have ambitions toward working in TV or film? How low?
This one.
There's a light back there. Whether that's a red light or no, I bring that can.
We'll see.
Use this.
Her.
Oh, great. Okay. You doing anything about it?
She makes her own cartoons.
Animator.
Yep.
Oh,
and the voices for them.
Okay. Okay. And how many would pretty much call themselves just fans?
The next one.
How many of you don't give a damn? Grant is going to be our interlocutor or moderator. You going to moderate everything? Okay. And I'm going to ask the actors to come up here, and they're all old friends of mine. Greg Berger, who's back here. I gave him his first gig.
You did.
In The Littles.
That's correct.
I didn't give it to him, he earned it.
There you go.
Who uses that expression?
You did.
No, there's a... Paul Eiding, get up. Can you run? There he goes, down Neil Ross. In no particular order, I wish to point out. But this is one of my oldest friends in the business here. Not you. And let's see. I haven't seen Dan Gilbazan. Maybe he is here by now. Hi, Danny. Yes. Am I missing anything, Grant?
David Mendenhall.
Oh yeah, where's David Mendenhall?
David
My
Mendenhall.
God. I haven't seen him in 25 years.
You grow that?
You're bigger. You grow up. You look bigger on the screen. You were 10 years old then.
When I started, when I started Transformers and G.I. Joe, I was young, but I was like 14, I think. My voice still hasn't changed.
He just wants to work more. But first time I have seen him since sitting in the studio actually doing the work. I'm going to get off here in a second. Jack Angel, we would like to have had him here. He said he didn't want to spread germs. He has a terrible cold. He sounds like this, so he's not with us tonight. And everybody, please hold silence. And Megan Fox is.
What did she play?
She said she wouldn't come.
She said
One other mention here. Louise Chamis, an old friend who's been in the business for a long time, all these actors. She's waving back there in a guest chair. And if you go to Disneyland here, you'll hear her as the queen and the witch. Wherever there's a witch or a queen, it's in her voice. She's still working. Louise Chamis. My name's Wally Burr. I was lucky enough to get the gig for voice directing and voice casting this thing, and it was just it's a kind of a moving moment to have all these guys back here again. To see this picture, which is just one hell of a lot of fun. I've never understood it till I saw it tonight.
You can explain it to me when you have a minute.
All right. Anybody else wants to get in touch with me? WallyBurr.com. www.wallyburr.com. Be glad to respond, ignore you, and ask you to go to some other site. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Grant. When you're asked, if you're asking a question, please make it clear who you're talking to, and speak up, for God's sakes. I hate these Q&As where you can't hear what the question was from the audience. There's going to be a mic out there, Grant. And,
I'll repeat your question.
okay, and he and I are going to argue to see who can top it. All right, I'm going to get it. Is that a chair for me?
It's funny, the first thing Wally said when he stepped up here was, I have a couple of no's, which is what I fondly remember you always saying. That was great, I have a couple of no's.
What did we do wrong?
You did almost everything right. I just want you louder. Thank you very much.
Well, Wally, you were originally handed a toy line, and you brought these guys to life through these wonderful voices. One thing that's very different than I think the motion pictures that are out now with it is that each one of these amazing voices really brings these characters, and it's a wide variety, it's a symphony of amazing sound. Can you talk about when you got Transformers, what it was like, and how you brought each one of these gentlemen onto the screen? What the hell are you talking? I'm talking to you.
Project, will you? No, it comes from a process of auditions.
Mike, project, sir, please.
Take two. I used to say that to you. Yeah, I did that. Hello. Anyhow, there's a long audition process, and it gets very competitive. I don't know how many actors were called in for this, a lot. And these guys are all very experienced actors at the time. We called them in for auditions. Then I did my work with them on what are called audition sites. There's one page of dialogue and a picture, and then that goes back to the next guy in line in the hierarchy, and they say, lose him, keep him, lose him. And then finally it burrows down to we have a selected cast. And what is kind of interesting is that these guys come in, haven't seen their scripts, and it's not because they don't want to, it's because the company can't seem to get their act together and get the scripts to them in advance. In any case, they get about 10 minutes to mark the lines in their scripts, and then it's we go. And it's not a lot of fooling around with rehearsal. Just kind of understand what the scene is, you're climbing a mountain or whatever. So that's the process. It's very competitive. As you see, how many parts did Walter? Yeah, Walter. How many parts did he play? I don't know, 6 or 7. And
1 million.
so that's one of the secrets of doing voiceover. I'm going to shut up. Okay.
And Dan, you were one of the first people cast, right?
Yeah, I was. Hey, it's nice to be here.
I worked for an awful lot of directors, good, bad, and indifferent, and Wally was, if not the most, he was one of the most prepared directors I ever worked with. A lot of guys would come in and you'd swear they never even looked at the script before they showed up. And it's very important because you have to understand, we don't see any of these visuals. The only person who knows what's going to end up on the screen is the director, who has this storyboard in front of him, which I'm sure you're familiar with storyboards. They look like comic books. But he has to explain to the actor what's happening. And it's quite important sometimes if my character screams, well, did I just see a mouse, or did I see a 300-foot tall robot coming toward me? And one director I recall, you'd ask him, well, what am I doing here? And he would glare at you like you ratted him out. And he'd say, why don't you tune in November? We'll all find out. You know, and I said, well, it's hilarious, but seriously, I need to know. And, you know, Wally would arrive bleary-eyed a lot of mornings because he'd been up until 4 a.m. making notes on this stuff, trying to get ready. And as Greg said, I think a big part of the reason that we're all here tonight is Wally Burr.
Thank you.
I was intense and shows. You get 4 hours. At one point, we had a day to do it. Then, rightfully, I think Screen Actors Guild got on our ass and said, "No, you can't have. You can have 4 hours to do a half-hour show. It's still tight, and there's not time to do a lot of discussion and ruminating about the characterizations and so on." So that was partly what drove me to be somewhat disciplined and to occasionally say, "Shut the hell up in there! I can't hear myself think." To get
listen, enough of this love fest crap, okay? I can't tell you the number of times after a session guys would say, "Jesus Christ, what the hell's wrong with that guy? He just works the crap out of him."
Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Okay? And it's true.
Now the truth is going to come out from now on. Yes, along with blood from your mouth.
But the proof's in the pudding, folks. And I think I know the director you're talking about. The difference between the directors is so amazing. Wally was a taskmaster. He wanted it the way he heard it. He wanted you to give it your all. And then he'd go to another session with another director, and he would have you, and I swear this is true, he would have you, okay, before the session, I want you all to get up and think you're a color, and walk around the table as your color. Or be a fruit, or do something else. It's like, what the hell does that have to do with what I'm doing here? You know.
So what's wrong with you?
Yeah. No, but it's that sort of thing. And Wally, he did his job, and he expected you to do your job. And that's what it's all about. That's all we could ever ask for.
Did you guys all record at the same time?
No, I refused to record it.
No, we did. Yes, we did.
Everybody was together.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's the big difference between games today, where they bring in an actor, because they have so much dialogue, they can't have the other sitting around waiting. But the games are done with solo, and what we call ensemble is the way we recorded. Sometimes as many as 18 actors in the stage, in the recording studio, would be yelling at them from the controls.
But you know, the movie was done, I don't know about you guys, but I was all by myself. Were you
Paired.
You were paired?
Yeah.
We did scenes as scenes.
Oh, see, for the movie?
Yeah.
I was all by myself. I still remember we were at B&B.
Nobody wanted to be with you.
Oh.
The truth comes out!
I just remember being at B&B, and normally we were all together. It was a great time. It was crazy, and I remember doing the movie, which I'm not in a lot of. It was about a half an hour's worth of a session, and we were at B&B, and I remember I was all by myself, and you were up in a booth, like, I don't know, it was miles away. And it was very different from the way we did the show. But you guys were with others?
Now, wait a minute. The B&B first session I remember was the G.I. Joe session. Were you in Joe?
Yeah, I was in Joe, but not the movie. I wasn't in the Joe movie.
The Joe movie was a combination of 3.5 hours that was put together called the movie.
Oh, well, maybe I was.
I thought we recorded at
Wally Burr South.
We did. The movie was recorded in B&B, wasn't it?
No, I worked at Wally Burr South.
See, I think
None of us were involved in this.
I'm sorry, this is getting so testy up here.
Anyone record with any of the guest stars in this room, Leonard Nimoy or Orson Welles, or?
I'll tell a quick one on the young man who played Papa, Judd. Judd was very cool. He came in, I remember the first time we saw him, the rest of us all, came strutting in on our own vehicles, because we were the guys who'd been doing the series. And I remember Judd coming in with a driver, brought a driver in, and they brought him in, and he came in, and this is my recollection, you guys help me out if I'm wrong. Judd hadn't done much animation. So he would actors like to look at other actors when they're talking. When you're like this and you're all looking at microphones, it's hard to say your line and have it picked up on microphone if you're looking around.
Yeah.
Oh, I really like seeing you there. And it was that sort of thing. So no, Judd, stay on the microphone. But he wanted to look at the other actors, and you can't do that unless you got things set up that way. But it's impossible when you had that many actors. So some days it took a lot longer than it would normally take because we had someone who had to learn. And Wally, to his credit, was very kind but very direct. You got to keep you got to stay on mic, otherwise who cares what you're saying?
Judd Nelson, I don't think had ever done voiceover in the sense of doing it for a cartoon. And I remember him standing about 10 feet away from me through the glass, and he said, "I don't know what the fuck I'm doing." And he was
We said, welcome to the club.
He said, "How close do I stand?" There are a lot of things you have to learn in voiceover. You don't walk around, you don't do body English, as he's saying, you don't look at the character. It is kind of tough if you've been doing on camera. You just almost automatically look at the person you're talking to. In any case, he was very humble, and not that he needed to be, because he's a damn good actor. But he just said, "I don't know what I'm doing here, so tell me." And stars will sometimes come in and say, "I'm going to tell you." So it was nice working with him.
I had a similar experience with Lionel Stander. I was standing next to him, and he would say, "I'm never going to go over here." He was playing the scene to me because he was an actor. He wanted to make contact. And Wally, 99% of the time, would have his face buried in the storyboard, as he should. And he didn't realize what was going on. So we're looking at you, you're off mic, Lionel, let's go in. And I was like, "Hi, Wally." And finally, I looked ahead in the script, and I realized I don't have any lines for a while. So I got off my chair, and I ran around, and I stood in front of Lionel. And he played the whole thing. I don't think you even realized I did that. No.
I was under the desk, I think.
David, you must be the youngest actor to ever be in a film with Orson Welles by leaps and bounds. So what was it like doing as a young kid doing this? And did you do
Can I
anything?
take the time for one quick story?
Yes, you can.
He was supposed to come in a limo. The limo came. He wasn't in it.
Orson you were talking about.
I asked the driver what happened. He said, "Mr. Wells said, go on, I'll be along shortly." No, and he was. An old Pontiac, and he drove up and he unlimbered himself. And he weighed about 3 1/4, I think, at that point. He got out of the car, and he was wearing those square-toe shoes that some people wear. He kind of had to stop, and I thought, "Oh shit!" And that's where the line came from. As a matter of fact, I do not remember that line, and people have asked me about it. Was it intentional? I think it was something somebody did as a joke, because during sessions people will fire off little things that are kind of funny. I think I said to myself, "They'll cut that, they don't worry about it, just go on." And he left it in, which I thought was very brave, especially back in 1985 or 6. Shut up, Bert.
Actually, I think it's pretty cool to be able to say you were in a movie with Orson Welles. I've been wanting to hear these Orson Welles stories because I never got to meet him. Are there any more?
I was going to finish that.
Yeah.
Grant, would you like to go back to the box office? He arrived, unlimbered himself. I went over, I wanted to introduce him. I had placed a piece of stemware glass on his disc where he would be sitting, and a bottle of Schweppes. And if you remember those days, that was one of the commercials he used to do. In any case, I introduced myself, and then he gestured to the driver of the limo, and the back end of the trunk came open, and this wheelchair, a custom-made one that would go out to about 3 feet to accommodate Mr. Wells's rear end. And he went in and sat down, and I said, do you mind if we wrote a few lines? What I wanted to do was find out whether he'd read the script. And it was apparent pretty soon that he hadn't. And we were running lines, and I decided to cue the lines that Leonard Nimoy would be doing the next day, I think. We did Mr. Wells' solo. You do that with stars. In any case, what happened to make you laugh?